estimated between 15 to 20 people neurodivergent worldwide. A rising rate of diagnosis among the healthcare professional. Building inclusive, innovative team in our important healthcare sector, it's important than ever. So today I have two amazing guests. I have with me Ellie and I have Corny. Welcome everyone.
Hello.
I before I get started, I pray for my God to manage this call because both of you like to speak a lot, and I want to manage this call. So please, God, help me to manage this call.
And also, we both got here on time, so
We
I'm
did.
I'm
Yeah.
very impressed.
Yeah, Ellie, it's very proud for herself because she make it on the time with me for the first time. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ellie. I am very excited and thank you for your time to being with us. So as we discussed and we put this together and we believe on and this topic is very important. So let's start directly without further to do with the reality check when neurodivergent staff don't get support or they need to lead to burnout, mental health problem, and high staff turnover. This costs organization money, reduce staff morale, and can make patient care less safer and effective. So one study I came across it as a large NHS trust saw about 25% reduction in turnover among neurodivergent nurses after they implemented target support. So this is a study I'm happy to share with everyone after our live. So there's a lot of studies and number, which is shocking to be honest. So my question for both of you: can you share a story of or observation from your own experience about what happened when neurodivergent stuff aren't supported? By the way, before you get started, both of you were part from my podcast. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining me. Courtney, you were in the season one and you
Yes.
did a great job. I get a very positive feedback. Stay tuned and see LA. LA has a lot of story to share there, and I believe this question is very important to start with you, Eli. So share with me a story or observation from your experience.
Okay, so from like my personal experience of how I've been a medical professional in like and how having ADHD has
If you
affected me.
want, you can do that from your personal story or from any friends or network you know about their story or your observation.
Well, to be fair, so when I was working as a medical professional, I had no idea that I had ADHD. I was only diagnosed a year ago. And I did talk about this on your podcast that, unfortunately, I suffered from really severe burnout and I had to leave my medical career behind. And I have decided not to go back to it in the traditional sense. And when I was working as a doctor, I didn't know anybody in the medical space that was neurodivergent or at least openly neurodivergent. I knew nobody with autism or ADHD. So, really, my experience from working within the system is really just only my own experience. And I know it's difficult because I was unable to go to my senior colleagues and say, I have ADHD, this is the support that I need, because I had no idea. Like I didn't know what was happening. But being ADHD and not having support just really for really anything during my medical career, it contributed to severe burnout. And even as a medical professional, I didn't know that burnout could get that severe. Like I had no idea. But I do think that's actually really important to keep in the back of your mind is that you will have medical staff that are neurodivergent and have not been diagnosed. So, as you said before, 15 to 20% of the population is neurodivergent. And loads, significant amount of those people are going to be undiagnosed. So actually, maybe my example's pretty good. Maybe it's pretty good. Uh,
Yeah, it is pretty good, and more details. It's coming soon in your podcast and your
yeah,
episode. You share a lot of your experience and how this. uh, drive you and motivate you to take
Mhm.
a change in your life and take a decision. So yeah, I thank you for that. Corny, what about you?
It's hilarious too because I was only diagnosed last year as well, in my late 30s. And that being said, since I've been diagnosed and even truly probably just before that, I feel like more people have been more willing and open to speak about having ADHD or being neurodivergent. And from what I have seen and noticed, I have people who tend to be neurodivergent speak out more. They speak their mind. They stand up for things that they believe in, but then they're knocked down,
Mm.
and they do get burnt out. I did too. I burnt out too within the first 4 years of being a nurse, and it's I got bullied. I got bullied by management, and part of that was because, and not I didn't know it at the time, but part of that was because I spoke out,
Mm.
and that got me in trouble, quote unquote, right? So it affects the system in the sense of people want to get their voices heard. They don't always have the best way of going about doing that, but leadership needs to be aware of that and deal with it in a better, more inclusive, more understanding way, right? I think that curiosity and validation go far when you're dealing with somebody who's neurodivergent, or if you don't even know that they are. And that's such a great point, Ellie, is that so many people probably don't even know
Mhm.
that they've got it. And just having that mindset of like, regardless of what's going on with you, this is how I'm going to help.
Interesting, interesting, and yeah, we will dive more deep with the leadership role and how they are very important to consider this, because this is as advantage for the organization to have such as a team where they are neurodivergent, because they have skill set the other they don't didn't have. One of the things they keep things in different way, and the other they don't see it, and every time they are curious, like what you mentioned, Corny, and that where they lead him to try to solve a problem. The other they don't solve it, which put you in the position like you are troublemaker, get some bullying and so on.
Yeah.
By the way, if Ali, I didn't tell you, if I need anything to be to have second eye or to be validated, immediately I send it for Corny, because she discovered all the mistake I did from I don't know from where. So this is something I have to share. And I'm also, since I started the life, I have this is my uh in my mind to do it, and I thought this is the best time to do this with two special guests I have in my podcast, Ellie and Corey. I want to test this with you. This is the first time. Let me see. Do you hear the voice
Sort of, yeah.
again?
I
Okay.
don't know what's happening.
I didn't hear that. I thought I heard a horn honking in the first
Yeah, I
one.
thought I heard a horn as well.
Yes, this is how I'm excited about this.
Oh,
Oh,
yay!
I see.
Me
I
Yeah,
see.
too.
it is. It is. Okay, so let's move forward. And being a neurodivergent professional bring a unique strength. This is what I just mentioned.
Yeah.
They often excel at spotting pattern. I can tell, creative problem solving and thinking differently. This strength help break down silos and improve communication between department and making care more coordinated and cost effective patient, if we know how to work as a teamwork. So here my question: how have you seen in your diversion treat positively impacted teamwork and patient care in your setting?
I think the way that I've seen, if like I said, it's hard because there are people that I know of on my team right now. They're neurodivergent, but previous to that, it wasn't as obvious. But what I have seen is if things go right and in a positive direction, communication, right? Like communication is so key. If we're able to communicate with each other and we're able to have an open discussion, then that is very positive in the way that the team works and it works well. If we're able to voice concerns and not feel like we're going to get reprimanded, again, another positive as to how we can work as a team and feel like we matter, right? And so, and that curiosity and validation is another huge key point that teams work, in my opinion, better, especially if they are neurodivergent, because that's what we all crave, right? Like we all crave to be heard. Even if what we're saying isn't able to be done, if we can have a conversation about it, we're much more willing to let it be. At least I am.
So
It's not to say
Courtney,
that I let everything be, but
just to
yes.
make sure, when you are mentioning this, is something which, again, I don't want to mention this as you corny on your
Yeah.
workplace, but overall, from your observation, from your knowledge, from because you're advocate about more psychological safety within the organization. Do you see this? We have a good and better communication, and we have it in the place to communicate with the neurodivergent, or this is something we aim to have?
I think both. I have seen it, and when I do see it, it's a positive. But I do think that it lacks still substantially in most workplaces, even in the one even in ones that I've been in.
Mm,
So I think that we need to do better when it comes to that, because it's funny. It's not just if somebody is neurodivergent. Like I think the communication is so key as a whole in our society, and something that we tend to lack so much, that I think that if we communicated better and had better conversations and become more transparent, there'd be better. I think retention would be better, to be honest. I know that that's a
mm.
bold statement, but I truly believe that if we could do better at communicating with each other and be heard, then people would feel like, okay, well, even if things can't happen, at least I know that I matter.
I see. So, Ali, what about you? How you see it from your perspective? We heard Corny more in academia setup and also in different marketplace. She is in Canada and you are in Scotland, and different marketplace, and you are more into healthcare system setup at the hospital, and you have experience with NHS. We don't need to mention NHS, but we mention a study where we have a good outcome. Can you share some of your thought about this?
So, sorry, do we mean what attributes do neurodivergent people have that positively impact
Yeah,
the
do you see
workplace?
this is something is positively involved and communicated with them across the healthcare system on from your experience?
I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm not understanding the question. So, as
Okay, so
in,
I like my question: have you seen neurodivergent divergent treats positively impact teamwork
So
and
have you
patient
seen
care?
things positively? Have you seen anything positive about people that are neurodivergent, like being treated well? Like, have you seen positives? Like, how have things been done well if somebody's neurodivergent, right? Like, how does a
okay.
team operate well? How do they, like, what are some positives that you've seen? I'm sorry, Anis, I know I'm stepping in, but I get it, Ellie, because sometimes I don't get questions or like thoughts. So, how have you seen there have been a positive experience if somebody's been neurodivergent with a team, within a
Yeah.
team or within a healthcare
Yeah.
system?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, sorry. Thank you for explaining things for me. I think that that is a very typical neurodivergent thing. Sometimes you do need things explained in a very specific way to be able to understand
Yep.
them. Um, but yes, I feel like people that are neurodivergent, obviously, that's very blanketed. Everybody's different because being neurodivergent is very individualized. Um, but particularly when I'm thinking about neurodivergent people, I have had the most experience in hospitals and A&E. So I feel like A&E attracts quite a lot of neurodivergent people, particularly people with ADHD, because they can deal with the chaos, right? That calmness that they bring to the environment is incredibly beneficial. Um, and they also bring a lot of empathy. Um, And I think those are two really wonderful qualities that people that are neurodivergent can really bring to the table. But unfortunately, I feel like, particularly when it comes to empathy and communication, that can kind of be neglected and kind of ignored, and that can contribute to teams breaking down. But I really hope I have answered that question correctly. But I feel like, yeah, I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know
You
why I
answer.
wasn't grasping that question very
No,
well.
no, no, you answer it, and you bring it, so you bring it from different perspective, how they are very valuable and make the chaos environment more calm by their skill set, and how they also share the empathy with the other. So
I was going to say,
uh,
I don't think I answered it correctly the first time, Ellie, because I talked about completely different
Yeah,
aspects.
I
See,
think
this
that's
is
what.
this right, like Anna, this is what you're going to get. We're
but
just
that's all. My aim from this question, having a new divergent with the team, is something positive or
it
not?
is. It's
So the
something positive.
conclusion, which I got from
Yes.
different perspective, it is, and we
Mhm.
Yeah.
have value added from them. The other day maybe they don't have. So the stigma, which we have it right now, where we found some communities and society, they don't see they are comfortable to share this as a diagnosis, because they afraid about the other, how they can see them. They are really beneficial for us on the healthcare setup or in any environment, not necessarily in the healthcare. So any team work, they have a neurodivergent as inclusive, this will be added value for them. And here I have a study which has been shared. 82 of US adults think employers need to better education on supporting neurodivergent employees. And this is where we mentioned the stigma, and not everyone like you, they can step up and speak up and try to advocate and support the community. So my question here, what particular change have you seen or would you like to see, okay, that would help neurodivergent clinicians stay and success?
Okay. Do you want to go first, Courtney?
Go, Eli, quickly,
Okay.
quickly.
Okay.
I was gonna
Okay.
say, you go first, Ellie, because clearly I got it wrong the last time. So
So, I do think there needs to be education when it comes to people being neurodivergent. I do think it's a part of the conversation more and more all the time, and I think that's really exciting. But there are certain nuances that I think need empathy, patience, understanding, particularly because, like, neurodivergent people mask quite heavily. And obviously that's not everybody, but I think particularly in healthcare, people with ADHD and autism, we learn to mask to be able to protect ourselves, right? So that we don't get judged, so we don't get ridiculed or stereotyped or bullied. And unfortunately, within healthcare, there's already a bully culture, which is unfortunate, but it is just the way that it is. And because we mask so much to the fear of that judgment, that can lead to really serious things like burnout, poor mental health, even up to things like suicidality and autoimmune disorders. Like, it can get pretty severe. So there needs to be education, there needs to be understanding. And I know it's really difficult in healthcare because it's so chaotic and sometimes you just need things now, right? But there just needs to be a bit of peace with it. And so I'll just give you like a quick example. So as we said, as we saw at the beginning of this, at the beginnings of this chat, I needed things to be explained to me in a very specific way to be able to comprehend what was happening. And this is quite common for me. I have to ask a lot of questions to really figure out what I need to do. And when I was working as a junior doctor, sometimes people had zero patience for that. People used to get annoyed at me and think I was a bit stupid. And obviously, no one ever said to me, Ellie, I think you're a dum dum. No one ever said that, right? But that's how it felt. So I would then not ask questions. Someone would tell me to do something,
Mm.
and I would take sometimes an hour or hours figuring out actually what it is that they want me to do. And that is exhausting. And that's come from fear, and it's come from fear of being ridiculed. And if people have an understanding that that's how a neurodivergent brain can work, there would have been a lot more patience, there would have been a lot more calm, and I would have been much more comfortable asking for help.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. I like this point. So here a follow-up question for you, Ellie. So you emphasis on the value and importance of education.
Hmm.
So as education, we know since ages we have the same way we give the same syllabus and curriculum for everyone, and they use it without thinking in different background or needs, like what you have mentioned. So if you want to picture how this education among the work team about the neurodivergent to help them to understand how to communicate or how to work together and their value and to change this stigma and stereotype, how you picture this kind of training and education? Can you share some of your thoughts? I know maybe it's hard right now to come on the spot and think about that, but any thoughts came in your mind?
So, in a perfect world, I would really love it to be implemented in person and kind of having maybe like a small group, uh, and have not only somebody to talk to you about being neurodivergent, but also having a neurodivergent person there and talk about how they need support, what that can look like. 'Cause as I said before, it's really important to take into account that different neurodivergent people have different needs. I mean, it would be amazing if we could start to implement that even in medical school or nursing school or something like that and start to learn from, the ground up. Unfortunately, I feel like, well, this is the way that it is in the UK anyway. A lot of this learning about like disabilities or working with indigenous communities, it's like modules on a computer. Like that's kind of what you do at the start of a job. You just flick through some slides, answer some questions, and a lot of the time you don't even really absorb it. Well, at least I really don't. I'm sorry, I have to admit it. I just
Me
flick through
either.
them to try and get them done.
Yep.
And that's not really effective. So in a perfect world, I would really love to have like group sessions and to be able to have these conversations openly and in a non-judgmental way. um so everybody can learn from each other.
More human interaction and connection, which is something we start to miss, especially also after the pandemic. So anyone
Hmm.
miss this kind of interfere? I do agree with you for that. So moving for Corny, do you see what is practical changes have you seen or you would like to see in the setup to help the neurodivergent?
Well, I think that I think education is important, and I agree with you, Ellie, that providing it in a different format is important. A lived experience format, for example, I feel like would be better than a module on a computer. Um, Things that I would like to see is beyond education, as I've mentioned. We all have a space to be included in our workplace and our lives, and I think that if we can learn that skill of empathy, if we can learn better communication, and if we can learn how to acknowledge and validate, I think that those three things would go far for whether you're neurodivergent as a student, whether you're neurodivergent as an employee, wherever, however you are, or even just within the world. I think that those three things are very important and necessary to feel heard. Because really, that's what ends up. You said, Ellie, that you were you asked questions and you felt judged, basically,
Hmm.
right? And some of that could have been your own self stuff, because I know that I feel like that too. But if you could feel those things, like if you could feel that there was some empathy and feeling heard, truly feeling heard, I think that, yeah, you'd probably be okay to ask questions. Cause like I ask questions too, because that's how I operate as well. And knowing that, right? Like I think that one part is being educated about how neurodivergence can show up for somebody. They can ask a lot of questions. They, need you to slow down. They need you to be like, speak less when you're providing information. Sometimes giving physical, whether it's an email or whatever, but giving information written out can help. Like, however that works. See, and this is where I lose my train of thought. This is also ADHD in a nutshell, right? Like,
But this is what helped
anyways,
me. This is will help me to move forward for the next
that's fine.
part,
This
which
is how
I
my brain
want.
operates.
Yeah, this is what I helped me to do that. So we agreed.
You want to learn? Just watch this video. This is how you learn.
Yeah,
Ellie and I
yeah, we
showcased lots of.
agreed. We agreed they are very positive, and they have good contribution to do with the team. So let's talk about the impact on the patient. So when the new divergent treat like they are hyper focused, button recognition, and they are creative thinking and can lead to better care of the patient with the complex need. New care models and innovation solutions, especially for the patient, can came and overlook from their side. So one thing here, I it came to my mind for the ADHD, like all the human they have a lot of thoughts or a lot of signal they came for them, and we have in our brain and simple way, it's not scientific but just to simplify it, like a filter to take what we want on and for us, and what we don't want our subconscious will save it there. The ADHD, they that filter somehow is not filtering everything, or sometimes it's not filtering, so they take a lot of the information. So their brain, most of the time, they are thinking, they are solving a problem. Maybe sometimes it is not there. It's not there for us as a normal human, but because they are thinking about beyond that, they are think to bring a new solution, solve some problem. The other they don't have it. So with having said that, can you give me an example how a neurodivergent treat have led to better outcome for the patient?
Yeah, so like if you're neurodivergent, you tend to be you're not always creative, but you're creative in different ways, right? And you can see like what you're saying is you can see problems sometimes either before they arise or you can see solutions to problems when they do arise. And kind of like how does that help a patient, right? And I think that that's there's so many things like you can see even on LinkedIn. You can see how many nurses or doctors or healthcare professionals likely that have ADHD that have been solving problems for patients because they're like, well, I see this problem and I see a solution and let's create this, right? I think that, you know, even within my like work, I've grown a lot since I started my job and I've changed a lot in how I teach and I've recognized that like okay, so students need caring, students need support, students need to be seen as human beings, not just like people that we can take and, you know, um basically bully them, right? That's not what their job is. Their job is there to learn. And so I've completely changed how I do things. Like I'm much more open. You know, you need an extension. Here's an extension. You know, you need this. Here's this. Ask me anything. Message me on this so that I can have a quick conversation with you versus emails because I can't stand that back and forth. So like just becoming more aware of how you can make things work better for who you're serving is a way that somebody with ADHD, for example, or is neurodivergent can help. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know why it came to my mind. I'm picturing right now how we see it in the movie, in the high school when we see someone smart, a nerd. They looking for them as a stupid, and they are not the same like other sheep or other crowded out. They are focusing on something. They are not the trend in that time. So most of the time, those looking for solve a problem or try to be valuable. The other they see them as they are not valuable or maybe as like weird. So the same thing. I don't know if this is make any sense. I don't know. Eli, you have work more into chaos environment in the ER and the A&D. So tell me about your experience. How you can see such as a group of people being on the ER, they can give a better outcome for the patient.
Yeah. So, as I said previously, people with ADHD tend to have the ability to be really calm in chaos. And in A&E, places like A&E, ICU, you know, these places that I've worked in the past, it's chaotic all the time. Sorry, were you going to say something, Courtney?
Yes. What is A&E? Because I'm gonna see. This is questions,
Oh,
right?
that's a good question. It's A&E is ER.
Okay.
Is it called the ER? Is that what it's called?
Emergency
Yes,
ER.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to make
Okay.
sure I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page.
Good. No, that was a very good question. I keep forgetting different places call it different things.
Now
But
we know.
yes, yeah, exactly,
It's
exactly.
accident and emergency, right? In the
Yes,
NHS. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. So yeah, people with ADHD will have, obviously, as I said, everybody's different, but it is common for people with ADHD to be really calm in these chaotic environments. And that was something that I also really enjoyed seeing in myself, is that like I would get really upset about the smallest thing. Like if I dropped something, if I forgot something, I would, get really upset. But if somebody was having a heart attack, I'm your gal, like you go in, you have a calm presence, and that's really beneficial. And something else I think is really lovely about a lot of neurodivergent people is the empathy and the kindness and the patience that they are able to provide for people. Now, this also needs to be looked after, because giving too much empathy and giving too much of yourself to people can be really exhausting, and it can contribute to burnout. So like, I remember I was working in a GP practice, so like a family doctor practice, and one of the GPs said to me, Ellie, you're too empathetic, you're too nice, you need to rein that in, because you're gonna burn out. And obviously, like, I love my empathy. I think that's a really amazing part of who I am as a person, but I do also kind of get what she means. So we need to kind of look after that aspect of us. But I do think empathy, being calm, also being resilient, being determined, these are all really lovely qualities that a lot of neurodivergent people have.
Lovely. So we see this is as a good sign, and we see how this will help the outcome for the patient. But
Hmm.
let's move for the other side. When neurodivergent staff feel they are have to mask their treats or their behavior, it's increased stress, lower the
Hmm.
moral, and reduce psychological safety for everyone. This can lead to worse care for patient and higher staff turnover. So my question here, how let's stay with you, Ellie. How do you see masking play out in the healthcare setting, and what are the consequences, at least from your perspective?
Yeah. So masking is something that a lot of us will do to protect ourselves. So, unfortunately, being neurodivergent growing up, a lot of people are ridiculed, bullied, judged, stereotyped for existing in this way. So, a lot of us learn how to mask to protect ourselves. And this can come across in many different ways, like earlier, being too scared to ask for questions, and that can be really exhausting, hiding sensory issues, hiding our fidgeting, or even mirroring people's emotions and facial expressions to you know make them think that you fit in with them, and that you're being a relatable person. But it's exhausting. It is so tiring, and unfortunately, if you mask too much, it can be really detrimental to your health. So it can contribute to things like distress, meltdowns, shutdowns. So from my personal experience, I used to have a lot of meltdowns at work, and that's really distressing, and it can actually be really, really hard to bounce back from. Like you go and have a quick cry in the toilet, right? Because you're so overstimulated, or because you're having to mask how you feel all day, but that can take hours to come back from. It can also contribute towards burnout. It can contribute towards mental health issues, physical health issues. You can start to isolate yourself. You can start to lose your sense of self because you're having to try and mingle with everybody else in such an intense way. So yeah, it can be a really, really exhausting experience. Did I answer the question right?
It does. And
I second
Corny,
all of that.
or Corny, I know a lot about this. I know how I'm big sure how you will answer it, because we spend day-to-day
Yes.
conversation. So I will not answer your side, but let me know what you want to share with us.
No, I think that I think Ellie did it justice, really. Like I think that I mean I second everything that she said. I have been burnt out and out of the profession, and part of that now maybe knowing was I was getting bullied, and probably like I didn't know I had ADHD at the time, right? And knowing that I do mask, I pay attention to myself now. I notice that after I'm done teaching a class, like I am completely exhausted. Like, and I'm talking like an online class for me is way better. And it's not that I don't like the physical or the in-person interaction. It's the everything else. It's the room, it's the lights, it's all that stuff exhausts me. And by the time I'm done, I'm like, I could go to bed right now.
Yeah.
But we don't always, that's not recognized. When people ask for accommodations, for example, right? There is a reason that they're asking for these things, because they recognize that if they don't get these things met, or some of them at least, they are on the road to mental health concerns. If they don't already have them, they're on the road to burnout, right? Like they're on the, and it doesn't always show up. Like you said, Ellie, you had meltdowns at work. Well, I have meltdowns at home. Like it's, by the time I'm in the evening, it's like, and I have my kids, I'm like, I just go away, like, cause I'm just done. So there's only so much capacity a human being has to deal with all of what's going on. And because our world isn't structured, and not just our world, but like especially healthcare isn't structured for people who are neurodivergent, we do tend to need a little bit more help, change, difference to ensure that we don't burn out.
Hmm, hmm. Speaking on accommodation, and I stay with me here, Corny. I believe we need to provide a real accommodation opportunity, especially to be provided by the leadership, and also value the neurodivergent perspective among the decision making. So my question here: what does meaningful inclusion look like in your experience, and what steps can organization take to get there? I know a lot of story there. I will not share anything, but let me know, speaking accommodation, how you picture it from your side.
Well, I mean, that's lots of stories, because that's what I am trying to advocate for, right? Because I believe in inclusion, and not just if you're neurodivergent. If I don't care what you have going on with you, you've got purple skin, whatever, right? Like I feel like we should be included regardless of what the situation is. And so, ways to do that is, if somebody asks for an accommodation, truly look at that hardship piece. If there isn't actually a hardship piece, because I know that that's always part of it. Like, is there undue hardship? If so, fine, we won't approve it. Is there actually hardship, or are you just feeling like, well, this isn't how we normally do things, and this isn't how it's going to operate? Or, if you get this accommodation, then everybody's going to get an accommodation. Fairness needs to go out the window. Fairness doesn't exist. We need to look at a person by person basis, and if somebody's asking for something, for example, that they need a change in environment, there is a reason. And so, the way to be more inclusive, again, it comes down to listening. It comes down to validating. If somebody's asking for something, most human beings don't ask for something just to ask for it. They're asking for a reason. There's usually something behind the behavior, if you're going to call it that, or
Can you
their
give me
ask.
some example, simplest example you think will add it a lot of value if the
Yeah,
employer they accommodate
flexibility.
this?
Flexibility.
What that
If
mean?
employers, okay, I'll explain. I feel like if employers would be more flexible, we'll just say with shifts. I don't work in the hospital, but I do know, and there's a reason I don't. I couldn't do shift work. I could not do 12-hour shifts. I could not do, example, I did when I first became a nurse. I worked in a psych hospital for a very short period of time, because I was doing day night shifts, 2 weeks on days, 2 weeks on nights. And by the time I was done, I almost committed myself, because I was like, I'm mentally, I'm broken. So like, I can't do this. And they were only 8-hour shifts, but still, I couldn't sleep the next, like it was awful. So being flexible in shifts. So yes, our unit only has 12-hour shifts. Okay, so why can't we change that? Why can't we do part-time and you do 4-hour shifts? Why can't we do, full-time and you do 8-hour shifts? Why can't we do, like, break it up? Maybe that person does better with 2 different times in the day. I'm not saying that that's everybody, but maybe that's what's better for them. Whatever the case may be, look at being flexible with shifts, because that can make a huge difference in somebody's lives. Doing
Yeah,
hybrid work, there's a reason it's a positive, right? Like, anyways, yeah.
I believe I get this is also in other discussion during my podcast for something totally different, and my guest it's brings something it's very innovative. I believe so. Why till now we need to work 8 hours with all the technology in the same way we have used since long time. Why not to try to find something more creative out of the box? Try to find a workplace. Maybe what we discovered in ages ago now is not fit for that. Let's find another way, and that was in different context. And right now, I believe this is the right way to bring it here. And you remind me with my discussion with Eli. Eli, you mentioned one of your main driver to leave the medicine, and I will not burn your episode, but sleep on the night. Sleeping on the night. This is one of your main factor, and this is where I help you to take the decision. So, speaking about your experience, what does meaningful including look like in your experience?
I just want to say one more thing. Sorry, Ellie. I just,
Go for it.
as we're saying this too, another thing I just wanted to add about neurodivergence and shifts and all this stuff, and I'm sure you can attest to this. But Ellie, people who are neurodivergent, and I'm sure this is everyone, but even if they're not, but like we work at certain times better than other times during the day. We've got energy at certain times and energy not at other times. For example, I have energy sometimes really like right now, I've got a lot of energy, but by midday to evening, I don't. And
But
then all of a sudden when my kids
for
go to
me,
bed,
knowing you, you have energy all the day, to be honest.
you see, I feel like it looks like that, but I don't. I lose energy, and then in the and when I say energy, yeah, I may have physically able to do it, but like
Mhm.
if it comes to actually doing work, like during the morning, I've got a fair amount, and then when my kids go to bed, it's like I hammer through a bunch of stuff, and that's like at 8 o'clock my time in Canada, right? 8 p.m. So it's another reason that I bring up that flexibility, right, of being able to work at certain times of the day to allow for that energy when you have it. But anyways, Ellie, I'll let you.
I will hold your energy right now. Ellie, tell me about your experience.
So what I think would be beneficial for accommodations, is that the question?
Yes.
Okay, grand. So I totally agree with what Courtney said. I think flexibility is key. And people need to be involved in what your accommodations are because people are different consistently throughout the board. So you can't just have a blueprint that you put in for everybody. So for instance, like I have quite severe sensory issues. My best friend has no sensory issues at all. He also has ADHD, but he has other problems that I'm not going to get into because he's not here. But yeah, so it needs to be hyper individualized. It needs to be accommodating. But I think the environment also needs to be really non-judgmental, right? So unfortunately, I'm not sure what it's like in Canada and America, but we in the UK, unfortunately, love to almost idolize our suffering within our profession. So there's almost like a competition of like, oh my goodness, I've done 7 nights in a row. Well, I went to 5 cardiac arrests, and you also, that pain equals validity, right? Which is not the case at all. And so whenever you have people that are getting accommodations because they legitimately need them, like coming off nights, coming off on call, I've had both those experiences. I had to get taken off nights because I was so unwell. There is judgment, they're like, oh, I can't believe now we have to pick up those hours, or I can't believe they're getting that. Their life is so much easier. That needs to change as well, to not only just let the accommodations happen, but for people to feel comfortable in their role. So I think that's really important. And also sometimes people don't really understand how to help their own issues, if that makes sense. So when I look back at when I was a medical professional, I still am, but when I was in a hospital setting, like I wish I knew to bring in earplugs and that was okay. I wish I knew to bring in special glasses so I don't get migraines looking at the computer. I wish I knew that I was allowed to go for a walk when I feel overstimulated. But so sometimes having that two-way conversation of, I think this is what I need, and then somebody else saying, you could also do this if you want. So it needs to be like a collective conversation. But I think
Mm.
being non-judgmental and being kind are the two really important aspects of it.
And what I understand from you and Courtney, sometimes those change or those treat could be very simple things. It's not need investment or change on the culture or setup. This is more inclusive, and this is where I want to speak directly for our leadership and HR. They will not like me. But what I see, I am not a neurodivergent, but what I see, the neurodiversity in any culture is like a checkbox. The organization, just to mention, we ADHD friendly, or we are neurodivergent. We like to stamp inclusive diversity and all those buzzwords. But in reality, there is nothing on the ground taking that. Just to mention, we include this in our policy and the procedure, and we understand that. And here, I believe, based on the discussion with you and my experience with someone brilliant and smart like you, missing this real improvement and will lead for a drop on the performance, lack on innovation, and also drop on the patient care. So my question here, surprise, surprise, have you seen organizations that treat neurodiversity as a checkbox? And what was the impact? I know it's a steady execution, but
Yes. I don't think that personally, like, I haven't seen them, like, quote unquote have, we're ADHD friendly or checkbox, but yeah, 100%. Like, I personally went through it myself, asking for an accommodation, and it was, there's not enough medical evidence to support what you're asking for. And it's like, but it's invisible. And I've gotten as much medical evidence to support that this is what I need and what somebody who is in my shoes could potentially need. So I think that that does happen often, that checkboxes, even invisible ones are utilized. It's kind of like the zero tolerance for bullying or harassment, right? Like, they say it, but let's be honest. I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but it doesn't exist. It's not zero because it's still there. And what are you doing about it? So I think that it's a crappy place to be when you're in an environment that doesn't acknowledge individual, like people being people, like different humans, right? Because we all are different. And Ellie made a great point to say that when you do ask for something, it shouldn't be a checkbox or a list that, okay, if this person's got ADHD, these are the only things that they can get. No, it should be, this person is Courtney and she needs this, and this person's Ellie and she needs this, or this person's Anis and he needs this. Like, we all need what we need. And so, yeah, I think that those environments are crappy, and they pretty much exist everywhere still. It's personally, I found it's very few and far between that you find places that are truly inclusive and understand kind of all those differences.
I can understand if I work on non-clinical environment and working for my employer. As example, I work in retail and manufacturer, and I need more flexibility or more treat for me. And what I provided for them, they told me, or they telling me, Anas, is not medical. There is no medical evidence that you require that. I can understand. It's not their business, but I can't understand this to happen in the healthcare system or in academia, where we supposed to support all those people because we believe in that. So I'm surprised about that. And we know that this is a psychological, I will not say disease, but it's psychological. It's very hard to prove it. There is no evidence, and there is no lab work to give this evidence. It's not like something biological. We can
Our
do that.
brains are different. Our
Yeah.
brains are different, and really that's what it is. And it's not that there's nothing to necessarily heal. There's ways that we can manage our lives differently to truly to operate better in society because of how the world is, right? And obviously, and sorry, Anis, to cut you off, if we're asking for something, we're asking for it because we think that it's possible to be done. If, like, for example, if Ellie's working in Emerge and she's like, well, I can't work with X, Y, and Z, but that's your job in Emerge. Like, maybe Emerge isn't the right spot for you. And it's not to say you can't still be a doctor, but maybe not in Emerge. And you need to be aware of that yourself, right? Like, if I'm asking for something, I think it's actually possibly done. I'm not going to ask for it because I'm like, I'm going to shoot for the stars and see what happens. So I think that that's something that really needs to be taken into consideration, that when somebody's asking for an accommodation or just to have a change, it's because they've thought about it and they really realize that one, it should be able to be done, and two, they feel like it would help them immensely to have it done.
Ellie, what about you? How you see it?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question, because we move a lot with more details. Yeah, the question here, if you came across any organization, they treat neurodivergent as a check box, and what is the impact of that?
To be fair, I've never really experienced that. I think, you know, so I think I've said to you before, like I've been working since I was 13, but I always worked in hospitality, and hospitality is just full with other people with ADHD, right? It's like absolutely rife in it. And then when it came to working as a doctor, I don't really have a great perspective on it because working in the NHS, I didn't really know I had a problem or that I was struggling. I think because I'd been struggling my entire life, it was just kind of the norm for me. But I think what would have been really beneficial is if at some point someone had said, if you need help, if you feel like you need an accommodation, or if you want to talk to somebody, you can. That would have been so beneficial. And like some supervisors I had were lovely and were amazing. And then I had other supervisors that I was really scared to go and speak to. And I didn't really want to tell them my problems because I thought they would judge me, right? And now that I'm getting into different careers, but even when I was working in Australia, right? Originally I was really, really scared to ask for help, but I was having daily meltdowns in the toilet. I was like, this can't keep going the way that it is. And again, some people I spoke to really weren't that accommodating. I got ridiculed for not wanting to be on nights, even though my own doctor said you shouldn't be on nights. That was awful. I actually can't believe that happened. But there were a couple of really amazing people that were in senior roles that were like, we'll take you off nights, we'll take you off on call. If you need time off, let us know. If you need a break, let us know. And that made such a significant impression and benefit to me. And it's just because they said, if you need this, we can do it. Um, and that's all you really need to do is just make
Mm.
it
You
make
felt
people
heard.
aware. Yeah, make people aware that that option is there and you can ask for help because as we discussed previously, maybe we've been hiding ourselves from the world our entire life, and we've masked, and we've been made fun of, and we've been ridiculed. And so having the confidence to ask for that help can be really, really scary. And that's why so many of us get to crisis point before we ask for help, and we can't
Yep.
hide any longer. So yeah, it is, like as Courtney said, it's about
Mm.
listening. It's just about
Yeah,
accommodating.
Being
and
safe, right? Like
Yeah,
I think
feeling
that
safe.
safety
Yeah.
and feeling safe and being heard are two super important things for somebody who's neurodivergent, because they'll be willing to share more. They'll be willing to work with you because they feel like they feel heard and they feel safe.
it's not necessarily to be a neurodivergent to be heard.
Yeah.
I am a normal one. If I see my manager came for me, tell me, listen, Anas, I heard you, I understand you, and now I see I am valuable in front of him. We have a better communication, and he give me empathy. However, we cannot do what you request. This is will give me more insight. Okay, is this is if not best place for me, maybe I can find another place to go that, but at least my manager understand me and heard me, so he have no resource to help me. But this is something where we when started we mentioned we need better communication is not the way how the stereotype came in for us how to speak, verbal, non-verbal. No, no, no. Communication to know when and how to communicate and how to negotiate and how to facilitate the things. And one of the things I started to realize, my son right now, maybe he is now right now we are trying to diagnose it, maybe he have a DHD, AHD, ADHD right now. And the reason from that, the signal around us right now is totally different from years ago. So from decade ago, now we have notification and mobile, we have shorts, a lot. All of those increase our ability or appetite to have such as a short temper and which could lead about that of a neurodivergent sign. And this is came across a lot of the study. Nothing improving till now, but this is something where we need to make sure our workplace, our education place, they understand how to treat those special need for those people. And I keep saying, and every time we try to solve today and tomorrow problem by yesterday solution, which does not make any sense till now. We try to do the same everything. One of the things I believe training should be identify and nurture a neurodivergent strength and provide mentoring shape and create flexible learning environment. Because as I mentioned, Ellie was one of those things in training. We used to have the same material for everyone and the
Mhm.
same way of the education. Some of us we like to have visualize illustration to understand. Some of us like audio, some of us like reading, but till now everyone they have to take this material as a reading and do it by themselves, and this is what it attract to keep diverse talent leading for better clinical and financial results. By 2030, this is another study, and also I'm happy to share the reference from that. By 2030, healthcare system with a strong diversity and neurodiversity inclusion practice could see up to 20% improvement in the patient satisfaction. So now we are talking about satisfaction of the patient, and this is not the employee. How we can get the benefit from those talent for our patient. I'm happy to share this reference with you. My question: what kind of training or mentorship has made a difference for you and your colleague? So, Ellie, you know in my screen. So, from your experience for you yourself, what kind of a training or mentorship has made a difference for you?
Do you mean specifically from a healthcare environment
For you as a person, what?
as a person?
Yeah.
So something that I have, it plays on to what we've been discussing previously, but what really, really helps me is having a non-judgmental kind mentor or boss, right? So since I'll give a current example. So I currently work for a company called Health Career Transitions, right? And they help medical professionals that are unhappy in their career move into alternative careers. And the owner of that company is called, she's the founder, her name's Hannah. Shout out to Hannah. And she has honestly been such a lovely force to work with. She's kind, understanding. When I've come to her and I've been like either stressed or overstimulated, or, she'll make a point to be like, "Oh, are you okay? There's quite a lot of spelling mistakes in this." And I'll be like, "I have dyslexia." And she's like, "Okay, amazing. What can I do to help?" And that's the thing. It's always, what can I do to help? How can we fix this? What accommodation can I make? Right. And this is
Mm.
the first time I've had this immense support. Now, don't get me wrong. When I was in Australia, there was one particular doctor that looked after the junior cohort of medics, and she was amazing. She was so kind. She was wonderful. But really, at that point, it was just about me actually getting to work, and actually being able to work as a human. Whereas now, because I'm not burnt out anymore, I'm actually being able to implement certain things into my work where I now feel like I'm excelling for like the first time in my career. I feel really supported. Uh, and that mentorship and that support is just is transformative. Like, I haven't even done any specific special learning. It's just about being supported in a non-judgmental way. And I know we keep repeating that, we keep coming back to it, but it's so important.
But
It's so
it's obviously
important.
clear. It's how your facial expression has been changed when you talk about the support which you had and
Yeah.
how you feel you are proud. Yeah, this is what we want. Something very simple. Her name Hannah, right?
Hannah, yeah, shout out Hannah.
Shout out Hannah from here, from Canada. Hi, Hannah.
Agreed. Yes.
Okay,
Sounds
Courtney.
amazing.
Now
Yes.
I want your input on these questions from your perspective as a personal, and also from you for your student. So let's start with you. What kind of training or mentorship has made a difference for you?
I honestly I second what Ellie's saying. I mean, I always go back to the mentor that I had when I was first, like even before I got out of nursing school. He recognized that I needed the help in the sense of like I didn't know what I wanted to do, and he showed me, he showed me addictions, and he showed me that world, and it completely changed the path of what I thought I wanted to do as a nurse, and for the better. And he gave me support, he gave me books to read, he gave me all these things that would help me be successful in that world and as a nurse. And I mean, I'm very grateful to that. And I think that that has in a way shaped the way that I do things. That being said, and as an instructor, at first it's funny. This quote was from another colleague of mine. He said, "You teach as you were taught," and it's kind of like you parent as you're parented, right? And at first, I was teaching my students or my learners how I was taught, right? Like, well, in nursing school, you got to do X, Y, and Z, and like this is not acceptable. And if you go to university, like you're not going to be blah 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 blah, whatever. And honestly, now that I've been in the job for a couple years, I've completely changed my mentality with it, and I'm like, no, you don't need that type of you don't need an instructor like that. You need an instructor who cares and who's going to create a safe environment and who is going to help you if you need help and guide you where you need to be guided, and not judge you if you do something like submit something late or miss an exam or whatever the case. And so the way that I speak to my who I'm teaching is I speak from my own personal experience. When I'm teaching a class, I talk about myself, and I want to break down that stigma to say, like, this is how it's shown up for me. How do you feel? Like, what do you think? And most of the students that I do have are like, you created such a like welcoming environment, and we just want to share, and we feel comfortable to share. And it doesn't take a lot when it comes down to it. Just honestly validating, acknowledging them when they say, hey, I'm sick, I can't do this. The response that I get is like, thank you for caring. I don't think I did much, but I'm glad I'm glad that one sentence could make you feel cared about. And so for me, it matters a lot, like same like with you, Ellie, to just feel not judged, to feel safe, to feel supported. It doesn't take a lot. And I think that that's what everybody thinks. It's like, oh, well, we need to do this. And like you said, Anne, it's to check off boxes. Like, you don't. Just come at it from a different lens, and you'll be surprised at what you'll see and what you'll get from other people.
Lucky you're a student, and keep going what you are doing. You are cool instructor. So I will try to amplify this everywhere, and I see the value which you are added in your setup, because you are starting that. So this is will help your student, and they are lucky. Keep going,
Thanks.
Corny. So now there is neurodivergent clinical often spot overlooked and pattern. Like what we mentioned in the beginnings, they are spotting things that they don't see it, and come with sometime with a new way to solve a problem, not only to spot it and capture it, but also they find a way to solve those problem, leading to breakthrough the patient care efficiency, teamwork, and the list go on and on. This lesson can inspire uh, broader system improvement. So speaking on system improvement, can you share a specific example where a neurodivergent perspective led to positive change in the care process or culture or education, whatever?
Ellie, do you have an example?
I suppose it just really comes back to similar things that we discussed at the start, right? Like, Courtney, you said that quite often you would see neurodivergent people really want to stand up for people and really fight people's causes, and I see that pretty consistently as well. Not only standing up for patients and what's right for patients, but also standing up for colleagues as well. Like, that you've a lot of people have this like fierce need to stand up for something and look after people, and that's really amazing. And I have also lost my train of thought. but
Isn't that funny? Okay, I'll take over in the sense of, okay, this is how it operates. This is how
yeah,
right?
thank you,
You're like,
team,
I'm on
team.
this, right? Team, high five, I'm in. I'll tap in. So what I would say is this. I trying to think of examples specifically, like honestly, I blank only not because I don't not because they're not there. I just can't think of anything off the top of my head. What I'll say is this for myself. I have advocated and fought for utilizing AI not only just as a whole, but now more specifically using AI agents to start teaching soft skills. And there's been a lot of like apprehension because there's too many variables, there's this, that, and that. And so I've continued to push and push, and I'm now at least we've got a program within where I work that I can use it in my classroom. And to me, that's like a step in the right direction. I did a conference, like I did a speak about it at a university. For myself, when I see a problem, I don't just give up on it. I keep pushing for change. And there are some hills that I do die on, that I want to die on, and then there's some that I don't. And with this one, it was like, I'm not letting this go. And so I am going to keep pushing. And so I think that, we find ways to innovate, whether we get approval or not sometimes, and we do what we can. And so those are ways that like recently I've tried. There was somebody who spoke about kindness recently where I work. It's called Pedagogy of Kindness. And just, again, looking at students, looking at learners in a different light, knowing that they need kindness from us in order to flourish, to thrive, right? So yeah, there's people that are pushing for these things often. Just, we have to be having an open ear and listen to them.
Yeah, we need to make a neurodiversity a core value in any organization, and specifically on the healthcare policy and leadership, to invest in inclusive practice, measure progress, and ensure neurodiversity voices are central to decision about care, cost, health, equity, and go on. So
they try to do that though with DEI, right? And that's the challenge. DEI is that.
But this is the buzzword. It's not. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah. When you read it, it's very good. I like it. But how it's implemented and executed is something maybe I believe it's need to change, and we need to involve those who is smarter and expert in that, and bring the one who will use it, like someone like you. So here it came to my mind right now, Eli, without any thinking about it. I think, why not you, someone like you have you are a doctor and you have medicine experience, and you graduated sorry, you work in different healthcare system. Why not you speaking on policy and decision maker, not to be part from the HR team?
Yeah, possibly. But like I getting involved in how neurodivergent people are treated really anywhere is something that I am really passionate about, and it's something that I want to get involved in. Yeah, and I think there are actually courses and fellowships that you can do when it comes to strategy for the NHS. And so I have been looking at that. That is a possibility. But yeah, I think.
Yeah, you know why? Because we expect from our leadership and decision maker to understand us and do something for us. But maybe it's sometimes not. We need to step up and take this responsibility and be part from the decision maker, to be a decision maker. So this is how I see it right now. Just it came to my mind. And a question for you here, Ellie. What bold action or policies would you like to see on the healthcare organization take a truly embrace neurodiversity?
Honestly, I don't really know what else to add that we haven't already discussed, because I don't really know how like a specific policy or strategy would be able to be implemented, right? I'm not really from that world. I've just existed as a doctor and just like followed what everybody else is doing. The only thing that I can really see about improving not even just how neurodivergent people are treated within the workforce, it's everybody, right? just kind of repeating exactly what we've said. It is just the communication, it's the non-judgment, it's the kindness. But that is a really good point, though, is that what policies need to be created, what strategies need to be created. That is something that I probably would like to go and learn much more about, because I am, an advocate for these things, but I genuinely don't know the specifics. Like, Courtney, do you know like the specific policies and strategies that we haven't already
Haven't
discussed?
developed any policies myself, to be honest, but I mean, is there I think that I don't want to say it this way because I feel like everyone's like another committee, but I feel like in a way it would be nice if a group was created to and having people who are neurodivergent within that group to bring about the concerns that they have and the challenges that they have with whatever the policy could be, right? I think that as a whole, I think bringing on somebody who's neurodivergent, and maybe even more than one, because we do have differences, right? To create a policy would help make it inclusive, would help make it helpful for everyone, right? So yeah, I haven't necessarily, but that's how I see it being a positive.
Yeah, and I believe back for this, Ellie. I think one of the bold action to be to think about involvement with the decision maker to give your insight and to help them to see the things they are don't see it in the right way, and to be like a real role model for this to help them to implement a new solution. And speaking of that, I want to share something I believe Corny, you know that. If you know his name or please tell me. There is a minister in previous and former government. He managed the immigration ministry, but when they appoint him, they make sure that a minister, when they appointed him, he came as a migrant, so he know all the gap and the challenge the immigrant they have, and they believe his skill set and his experience will make a good match and good fit for that. And another, I don't know if you know his name, Corny. I know you are not immigrant, so you don't care about that. But yeah, this is one of the things where I try to encourage a step up, and take the action for that. One of the things also it's came to my mind right now, Nike or Nikki, it depends how you pronounce it. The prime name for the sport company, those shoes and sportwear. So when they started in the beginning, it was a partnership between a Japanese company and that the founder. And that founder, when they choose him, the Japanese company, they bring him because he was a runner and he understands the sport, and they need someone to present them, know exactly what the challenge the sports or athletes they need and they have. So sometimes this will be our asset, and our skill set equipped us to move forward. So speaking about that, that's what I thought to put it as a closing. And as a closing for our today discussion, I would like to thank you for your important conversation. It was very valuable and a wealth of information. And I tried to keep an eye on the chat, but I failed. So now I will go for the chat and see if there's any question. By the way, this is the first live ever I had such amount of comments.
Oh
So
my
I'm
goodness,
very proud.
really?
Yeah,
Yay!
this is the first time. I
Go
never
us!
have I never have any single comment in my life. So thank you for that, and you make my day for this. So let me see if there is, and help me please if you see any question on the chat. I thank you, Robin, for your comments, and thank you.
I don't think we can see the chat, Annis,
Yeah,
because
I
I'm like,
can't
I
see anything.
no, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
it's all on
Robin,
you.
we bring difference. Okay. So Robin, it's he value your different perspective. Thank you, Robin. Peter also send his hi. I have had. and he shared his also negative experience. Okay, sorry for that. Peter, and Melina also I have joined because I would like the topics, want to get involved in the conversation and to support Ellie. Seem it is your friend Ellie. Maybe there is no right or wrong answer. It's just a great to have conversation and hold space for each other. Yes, Melina, this is what we have discussed. The communication is the key, and Robin, it's also agree on our discussion. Education also it's very important. It's run like a horse. Melina, it's okay. It's maybe okay. I have also here Deb. I can stay, but I'm glad this is being talked about that too. Thank you, Glad, for coming. I have Nell. He is agree with us. Thank you, Nell. I have Gagan. Corny here for you. Allah. Corny, you have shoved up from Gagan.
Oh, hi. Glad you made it.
Also, I have Mo Fahad. It's
Oh,
working.
yes.
Yeah,
Hi,
during
Mo.
COVID, all of a sudden showing variable hours. Okay, thank you, Mo. We can came up with 8 to 12 hour shifts anyway. Probably may some person have to come 2 day a weeks. Okay, good options. David, shouting out for you, Ellie. David Tang.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I know David.
I
Uh,
love that it's brought so many people because it is
Yeah,
such
that's
an
so
important
nice.
topic, right? It's
I I think here we have a question for you, Ellie,
ooh.
from
Oh,
I don't know if I pronounce it well. Givo, Givo, Geoff. Sorry if I'm not pronounce
Jeff,
your name.
maybe?
Je-
Jeff.
Not Jeff. Gof, Gof.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
my bad. English not
No,
my
I'm
first one.
dyslexic. I can't spell, so you're fine.
I don't even see what's going on, so it's totally fair.
Okay, Ellie, why do you think ADHD is so rude in hospitality? My daughter is likely ADHD and works on that industry. Answer
Okay,
him.
so why do I think it's so common in hospitality?
Why do you think ADHD is so rude? Rude.
Rude?
Yeah.
Rude? Are people rude? Oh,
He
wait.
he he is speaking about his daughter. So he thinks she is likely to be ADHD
Yeah.
and she is working in hospitality. But he
Oh,
asking why do you think ADHD is so rude in the hospitality?
so why people are rude to her?
Yeah.
Try
Maybe.
it that way, Ellie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I'll answer it that way. I'll answer it that way. I think it really depends on the environment, right? So I was a barista until like a few weeks ago, right? So I was back working in hospitality, and everyone that I worked with was ADHD. Like all my colleagues were ADHD, and they were all wonderful, right? And like that was it was such a supportive environment. Everyone was so kind, understanding. Even all the customers that came in were so wonderful. But then when you work, I've worked in other environments.
Ellie, sorry to stop you. I
Yeah.
noticed his second comment. He mentioned sorry for that. It is autocorrect.
Oh.
He looking why they are rife, not rude.
Right. I was like, who's being rude? Right, no one's being rude. That's fine.
Yeah.
Why are they rife? Okay, understandable. I think it's to do with, flexibility. I think it's to do with the fact that so a lot of people that work in hospitality do other things as well, right? Of course, you do get people that own cafes and being a waitress or a barista or whatever is their full-time gig. But you also have other people that are artists and they're writers and they're DJs and they do all these wonderful things. So they've kind of got their almost their own approach to a portfolio career of doing lots of different things. And hospitality fits really wonderful within that community. So you could, you know, I know someone who is an artist, right? And they're a painter and they try and sell their art that way, but they also work in the cafe and they're a barista, but they also work in an Italian restaurant on weekends. So it gives you that opportunity of kind of dipping in and out of different things. So people are attracted to that, and you do get quite a lot of people that are neurodivergent within the creative spaces. It's also fast paced. So have you guys ever worked in hospitality as like a waitress or something in a really busy environment, or a bartender? Okay, so you get this buzz.
Because I didn't think I could do it, to be honest. So that's
fair. You get this buzz, right? And it's kind of like addictive, that because you are thinking on your feet, you're thinking of really fast things, you're, you know, going from table to table, you're able to use your communication skills, and it's fun, right? I'm not gonna lie, it's exhausting as well, but it is really, really fun. And when you are also around other people with ADHD, you just feel that connection and it feels really nice. And I've met some of my best friends working through hospitality. And so I kind of think it must be like a cycle, right? So you get the flexibility, you like the people that are working there, it's fast, you can think of your feet. And also, you can use your creativity in that space as well, whether it's like making food, making drinks, making coffee, whatever. And so people get a real buzz from being part of that community, and I think it's really nice.
Probably kind of like a merge, right, Ellie?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like that same idea of you're fast paced and you're going and going and going in a different way, obviously, because you're being a barista is handing out coffee versus saving lives.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that fast paced environment for some people with ADHD does do wonders for them.
Yeah, you do get like a little like high off it, you know?
It's like the dopamine hit, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I have for today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you for your both of your friends to come up and show off for us and support our live. And thank you for our audience, even for who is not comment or like. Thank you. I can see you from there. And thank you for your daughter, Courtney. She keep us focusing.
Yeah. I've been trying to work and do like talk and do. I'm trying. Thankfully, I can somewhat keep my train of thought. But yes, thank you for having both of us. I mean, I think that this was an amazing conversation, and I would love to like have more of them because I think that it's such a important conversation to have.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure to having you both again, and looking forward to share more exciting news, hopefully, and we will come again and again. So have a good day whenever where you are, and I wish you a good day. So I will end the live, but please, Corny and Ellie, stay with me. Don't close the browser. Bye bye.
Bye.